The glass exploded behind me before I even understood what was happening. 1 second I was standing in the hallway, the next my sister's hands were on my chest and I was airborne. I didn't scream. Didn't have time. Just felt the cold shock of falling backward, then the sound, God, that sound, like 1,000 knives shattering at once. That's how I ended up in a coma for 3 weeks. And that's when I learned the truth about my family. See, people think comas are quiet. They're not. You hear everything. Every whispered secret, every confession people make when they think you can't hear them. And what I heard changed everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Gwen, and I grew up learning that staying invisible was the only way to survive in my own home. From the outside, we looked normal. Suburban house, 2 daughters, family photos on the walls. My parents went to work, we went to school, the dishwasher hummed after dinner. Standard stuff. Inside those walls? Different story. Everything in our house revolved around my sister Courtney. She was 3 years older, tall from volleyball training, the kind of girl people noticed without her even trying. And my parents worshipped her. Every achievement, every award, every smile, it all got celebrated like she just won the lottery. Me? I was background noise. I learned early to stay quiet, move carefully, disappear when the tension started building. Because Courtney had a temper. Not the kind where someone yells and gets over it. The kind that felt dangerous, unpredictable. Like walking on ice that could crack any second. She didn't need a reason to explode. The way I breathed too loud could set her off. Answering a question at dinner could spark that cold flash in her eyes. And every single time, my mom would smooth it over with the same line. You're still our special girl, Courtney. Gwen's just, here. Not belonging. Not matching. Just existing in the background of Courtney's spotlight. I was 12 when I first realized how deep this went. I heard Courtney in the kitchen one night, whispering to Mom. I was supposed to be asleep, but I'd come downstairs for water. Why did you even have her? Courtney said. I froze on the stairs, holding my breath. Mom didn't gasp. Didn't get angry. She just sighed and stroked Courtney's hair like she was the victim in this conversation. I know, sweetheart. I know. That's when something in my chest went cold. Not sad, exactly. Just empty. Over the years, moments like that piled up. Little comments, tiny dismissals, bruises I hid under long sleeves. I told myself it didn't matter, that if I just stayed small enough, careful enough, things would be okay. The only person who ever noticed was Carter, the boy next door. We grew up together, trading homework and climbing backyard fences. He saw the way I flinched when doors slammed. Saw the bruises I tried to cover. But even he didn't know the whole truth. Not yet. Things got worse when Courtney started losing. Volleyball had always been her identity. Colleges scouted her, coaches praised her, neighbors bragged about her like she was the town's claim to fame. But junior year, everything shifted. A sprained ankle. A new player who jumped higher. A few disappointing games. For Courtney, disappointment always needed somewhere to land. And it landed on me. That spring, I got accepted into a selective arts program in the city. I held that acceptance letter in my hands, trembling. For once, I felt proud of something I'd done. Mom barely looked up from her coffee. Dad mumbled, "That's nice, honey." Then Courtney walked into the kitchen. She got in, Mom said quietly, like she was confessing a crime. Courtney's jaw clenched. Into that program near the athletic center? Yes, I said softly. So now she has to invade my space too. I tried explaining our classes would be in completely different buildings. Didn't matter. Logic never mattered when Courtney felt threatened. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Just the sting, the blur, my cheek burning. Mom sighed. Courtney's under pressure, Gwen. Don't provoke her. Pressure. That became the magic word in our house. The excuse for everything. Every shove, every bruise, every door slammed inches from my face. Courtney was under pressure, so I needed to absorb it better. Carter found me the next morning, a yellow bruise spreading across my cheekbone. "This wasn't an accident," he said. I didn't answer. "Gwen, you need to start documenting everything." "I'm serious. Pictures, dates, all of it. My parents won't believe me even if I show them." "That's not who the evidence is for," he said quietly. "It's for you. For the day she finally crosses the line you can't come back from." I wanted to laugh. Courtney had already crossed so many lines. But part of me knew he was right. So I started keeping a journal, taking photos, writing down dates and details. I hid everything at Carter's house, and the more I documented, the clearer the truth became. Courtney wasn't just spiraling. She was escalating. The house felt smaller every day, like the walls were closing in, waiting for her rage to find its final breaking point. That breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon in late spring. Golden light poured through the upstairs hallway. I remember thinking how peaceful it looked, which should have been my first warning. Our house was never peaceful without a reason. I'd just finished ironing the dress I planned to wear to my art showcase that evening. First time my work would be displayed publicly. First time anyone outside our school would see what I could do. I wanted that night to mean something. But Courtney couldn't stand the thought of me having anything she didn't. I heard her door slam after the mail truck drove away. She must have gotten another rejection letter. The air immediately shifted, brittle, electric. Every survival instinct I'd developed over the years kicked in. I grabbed my things, ready to hide in the downstairs den until she cooled off. I wasn't fast enough. "Gwen!" My name cracked through the hallway like a whip. Her footsteps thundered. Hard. Fast. Decisive. I turned, heart hammering. She was already marching toward me, face blotched red with fury, a crumpled letter in her fist. "You think this is funny?" she spat. "I don't know what you mean." "Of course you don't. You never do. You just float around ruining everything." I backed up a step. She matched it. "Court, not today. Please. I have to leave soon." "Oh, I know. Your big special night. Everyone praising you, everyone looking at you." I didn't react. Any sign of fear only fed the fire. But when she grabbed my shoulder and yanked me toward her, something inside me cracked. Not anger. Not resistance. Just cold understanding. She wasn't going to stop. Not now. Not ever. "Let go," I said quietly. She didn't. She shoved instead. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall hard. The framed family photo beside me rattled. Last Christmas we pretended everything was fine. "You always take from me," she said, voice shaking. "Every time I fall short, all anyone sees is you succeeding. You make me look weak. I'm not responsible for." "Shut up." She lunged. I dodged. She grabbed my wrist and twisted hard. Sharp pain shot up my arm. I cried out. That sound, my pain, sent her into a deeper frenzy. "Stop acting like a victim." "I'm not." "You are." Her face was inches from mine, twisted into something I barely recognized. Then she said the sentence that told me everything. "You should have never been born." Time slowed. Not gently. Just long enough for me to realize I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't undo. I stepped back without thinking, desperate for distance. We were right next to Mom's decorative glass office door, frosted panes with geometric patterns. Supposedly reinforced. Courtney grabbed both my wrists, pulled me toward her, then shoved with everything she had. Time fractured. I felt my body leave the floor. Felt the backward momentum yank the air from my lungs. Felt the glass resist for half a second before it exploded. Sound vanished into pure white noise. The world spun. Shards sliced across my arms, my neck, my hair. Cold air rushed past as I fell through the door frame and slammed onto the hardwood floor of Mom's office. The pain was blinding, but brief. Everything dimmed quickly, like someone pulling a plug. Somewhere above me, Courtney screamed. "Oh my God! Gwen! Get up! Get up!" Her voice cracked. Not with concern. With fear. Fear of consequences. Mom's voice joined hers, high and shaking. Call someone. Hurry, Dad said. They kept saying my name. Each time softer. I felt warm liquid pooling under me, slipping between the floorboards. My fingertips went numb. My chest struggled to rise. But the moment that broke me wasn't the pain. It was hearing my sister say, "She made me angry. She always makes me angry." It wasn't my fault. The last thing I felt was weightlessness. Like my body was drifting away. Then nothing. People think comas are quiet. Mine wasn't. Darkness has ears. And when people think you can't hear, they speak freely. In the ICU, I floated in and out of consciousness. Never fully awake, never fully gone. Voices filtered through like echoes underwater. Courtney, they want your statement again. It was an accident. That's not what the evidence suggests. Evidence. My journal. My photos. Carter must have brought them forward. I heard Mom crying, real, desperate crying I'd never heard before. She's our daughter, she kept repeating. She's our daughter. Dad's voice was hollow. We should have stopped this. We should have seen. No. Courtney cut in sharply. You told me she was the problem. You always said she made everything harder for me. Silence. Thick. Damning. A doctor spoke next, calm and clinical. Gwen suffered severe trauma. Swelling around the brain, multiple fractures. A major artery was nearly severed. If your neighbor hadn't applied pressure immediately, she wouldn't have survived the ambulance ride. That neighbor was Carter's dad. A paramedic. The only adult who'd ever protected me. The days blurred together. Time folded strangely. Voices looped, faded, returned. Sometimes I heard Carter reading aloud, telling me the world was still waiting. Sometimes I heard nurses whispering about the case, how unusual it was for sibling assault to go this far. Sometimes I heard Courtney sobbing. Not from guilt. From fear of what would happen to her. Then one sentence cut through everything, sharp as the glass that shattered me. She might never wake up. Maybe that's what jolted something deep in my mind. Maybe that's what stirred the part of me that refused to die. Because one morning, weeks after I fell through that door, the darkness thinned. A flicker. A pulse. A sliver of light. And then, through fog and pain and distant beeping monitors, I surfaced. Slowly, heavily, but alive. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. The room was too bright, too cold. Machines hummed louder than my own breath. My body refused to move properly, but my mind started piecing together the fragments I'd heard in the dark. Mom stood in the corner, shoulders shaking. Dad hovered near the door like he wasn't sure he belonged there. But the first person I truly saw was Carter. He was slumped in a chair beside my bed, asleep with his head resting near my arm. His hands still loosely held mine, like he'd been afraid to let go. When he woke and saw my eyes open, he didn't speak at first. Just exhaled, a sound that cracked in the middle. "You're awake," he whispered. "God, Gwen. You're awake." I tried to speak, but my throat felt like sandpaper. He grabbed water, helped me take tiny sips. "How long?" I managed. 3 weeks. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. 3 weeks I sat here thinking I'd lost you. The doctors explained everything slowly. The swelling. The surgeries. 3 weeks lost to a coma. They said healing would take time. That my memory might glitch. That my body would protest simple movements for months. But none of that was the hardest part. The hardest part was hearing what happened while I was gone. My art showcase happened without me. Carter told me later that my teacher displayed my work anyway, with an empty chair where I should have been standing. People asked questions. Where was the artist? Why wasn't she there? Carter's dad told them the truth, that I was fighting for my life in the ICU because my sister put me there. Word spread fast in our small town. The perfect family with the golden daughter wasn't so perfect after all. Courtney had been charged. Assault with intent to cause serious bodily harm. The prosecutor pushed hard because of the evidence, years of documented abuse my parents had ignored. The evidence Carter kept for me became everything. My journal with dates and details. Photos of bruises I'd hidden. Notes about incidents my parents dismissed as accidents or misunderstandings. Teachers came forward. They remembered the days I wore long sleeves in summer. The times I flinched at raised voices. One guidance counselor admitted she'd noticed signs but didn't push because my parents seemed so involved, so present. Neighbors testified. They'd heard screaming through the walls. Seen me sitting on Carter's porch at odd hours, clearly not wanting to go home. Even some of Courtney's old volleyball teammates spoke up. Apparently, her anger wasn't just reserved for me. They'd seen her destroy equipment, shove younger players, explode over mistakes. They'd stayed quiet because she was the star, the one who won games. The truth spilled everywhere, impossible to gather back up. My parents tried to spin it at first. Courtney was under pressure. It was an accident. Sisters fight sometimes. But the evidence didn't lie. Neither did the severity of my injuries. The doctors laid it out in court: fractured skull, severed artery, extensive lacerations. I nearly died on that office floor. My parents, once so determined to protect Courtney's image, now sat in the courtroom looking hollow. Mom cried through most of the hearing. Dad just stared at his hands. They wanted to visit me in the hospital. To apologize. To explain. But Carter acted as my gatekeeper. She's not ready, he told them. And honestly, I wasn't sure I'd ever be ready. Because healing, I realized, wasn't about fixing them or accepting their apologies. It was about choosing myself for the first time in my life. When the social worker came to discuss my living situation, she presented options carefully. I could return home with strict supervision. I could stay with relatives. I could enter a temporary foster arrangement. I didn't hesitate. I want to stay with my aunt. My Aunt Laura, Dad's older sister, had always been the black sheep of the family. She'd moved 3 hours away years ago, kept her distance from family drama. But when she heard what happened, she drove straight to the hospital and didn't leave. You'll have your own room, she told me. Your own space. No walking on eggshells. You'll be safe. Safe. The word felt foreign. And for the first time in my life, the choice was truly mine. Moving in with Aunt Laura felt like stepping into air I could finally breathe. Her house was smaller than my parents', filled with mismatched furniture and walls covered in art she'd collected over the years. She worked as a therapist, which meant she understood trauma in ways my parents never could. She didn't push me to talk. Didn't demand explanations or force forgiveness. Just created space for me to heal at my own pace. The first week, I barely left my room. I'd wake up from nightmares, disoriented, expecting to see that hallway. Expecting to hear Courtney's footsteps. Aunt Laura would knock softly. I made tea. Come down when you're ready. No pressure. No expectations. Just an invitation. One morning, I came downstairs at 3 a.m., couldn't sleep. She was already in the kitchen, reading. Bad night? She asked. I nodded. She poured 2 mugs of tea, didn't say anything else. We sat in comfortable silence until the sun came up. That's when I realized what safety actually felt like. Not the absence of danger. The presence of someone who gave you space to fall apart without judgment. Recovery was slow, sometimes painful. Physical therapy hurt, relearning to move without wincing, building strength in muscles that had atrophied during the coma. Some memories stayed fuzzy. I'd lose words mid-sentence or forget what I was doing. But every day, I felt a little more like myself. Or maybe a new version of myself. One who didn't have to stay small to survive. Carter visited every weekend, making the 3-hour drive without complaint. We'd sit on Aunt Laura's porch, and he'd fill me in on everything I'd missed. School drama. Town gossip. The way people looked at my parents now. Your mom quit her job at the library, he told me one afternoon. Can't handle people staring. I didn't feel sorry for her. Maybe that made me cold, but I'd spent 18 years absorbing her guilt and shame. She could carry her own now. About 2 months into living with Aunt Laura, my parents showed up unannounced. I was in the garden, trying to plant tomatoes. Aunt Laura thought it might be therapeutic, putting something in the ground, watching it grow. I heard the car pull up, heard voices at the front door. Then Aunt Laura came outside. Your parents are here. You don't have to see them if you're not ready. I stood up, dirt under my fingernails, heart pounding. I'll see them, I said. But only for a few minutes. They sat on the porch, looking smaller than I remembered. Mom's eyes were puffy. Dad's face was drawn. Gwen, Mom started. We're so sorry. We should have. You should have protected me, I cut in. My voice was steady. For 18 years, you knew what she was doing and you chose her. Every single time. Dad cleared his throat. We thought if we just kept the peace. There was no peace, I said. Not for me. I was scared every day in that house. And you both pretended not to notice. Mom reached for my hand. I pulled back. We want to make this right, she said. You can't. What's done is done. I took a breath. I don't hate you. But I don't forgive you either. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Gwen, please. I need you to leave now. Aunt Laura appeared in the doorway. You heard her. They left. Mom crying. Dad helping her to the car. I went back to planting tomatoes, hands shaking but heart lighter. I'd said what I needed to say. Set the boundary I needed to set. That night, Aunt Laura made my favorite pasta. You did good today, she said. It didn't feel good. Necessary things rarely do. Courtney's trial concluded 6 months after I woke up. She pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. The judge gave her 3 years, with mandatory anger management and therapy. Part of me wanted to feel something, anger, satisfaction, closure. But mostly I just felt tired. Tired of carrying the weight of her rage. Tired of being the target she blamed for her own failures. The day of her sentencing, Aunt Laura asked if I wanted to attend. No, I said. That part of my life is over. And I meant it. I started community college that fall. Aunt Laura helped me apply, drove me to orientation, made sure I had everything I needed. The first day, I walked into Introduction to Art Therapy and knew I'd found my path. The professor, Dr. Collins, was this tiny woman with kind eyes and paint-stained fingers. Art, she told us, isn't about making something pretty. It's about making something true. That stuck with me. I started my practicum the following spring. My first client was a 15-year-old girl named Zoe. She'd been referred by the school counselor after multiple incidents of self-harm. She sat across from me, arms crossed, refusing to make eye contact. This is stupid, she muttered. Drawing pictures won't fix anything. I handed her charcoal and paper anyway. Maybe not, I said. But it might help you say things you can't put into words yet. She glared at me. You don't know anything about me. You're right. I don't. But I know what it's like to feel like you don't matter. Like no one sees you. Her eyes flicked up. How would you know? I pushed up my sleeves, showed her the scars from the glass. Thin white lines covering my forearms. My sister put me through a glass door. Nearly killed me. Spent 3 weeks in a coma. Zoe stared. Why? Because she was angry and I was there. Because the people who should have protected me didn't. What happened to her? Prison. 3 years. Zoe was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she picked up the charcoal and started drawing. By the end of the session, she'd filled 3 pages. Jagged lines, dark shadows, words scratched so hard the paper tore. She didn't explain them. Didn't have to. Same time next week? I asked. She shrugged. But she showed up. And the week after that. And the week after that. 6 months into our sessions, she brought me a drawing. A girl standing in sunlight, arms raised. "This is me," she said quietly. After I looked at her, really looked, the defensive posture was gone. She sat straighter, met my eyes. "You're doing the work," I told her. "So are you," she said. That's when I understood what Aunt Laura meant about necessary things. Healing isn't comfortable. It's not pretty, but it's worth it. A year after moving in with Aunt Laura, Carter and I were sitting on the porch. He'd driven up like he did every weekend, bringing takeout and terrible jokes. "You ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't kept that journal?" I asked. "Every day," he said. "But you trusted me with it. And I couldn't let you down. You never have." He looked at me then, really looked. "You're different now. Stronger. I feel different. Like I finally get to be whoever I want to be." "Who's that?" I thought about it. "Someone who helps people like me. Someone who survived and decided it meant something." Carter smiled. "I like that person." "Yeah," I said. "Me too." That's the thing about healing, it's not linear. Some days you feel strong. Other days you're right back in that hallway, hearing glass shatter behind you. But you keep showing up. You keep choosing yourself. You keep building something new from the broken pieces. Justice didn't erase what happened. The scars on my arms are permanent reminders. I still flinch at sudden movements. Still get anxious around conflict. But justice opened the door to something better. A life where I don't have to stay small to survive. Where my voice matters. Where silence isn't safety, it's just silence, and I can fill it however I choose. The glass door broke that day. But so did the lie I'd been living. The lie that I deserved what happened. That I wasn't enough. That I should just disappear and make everyone else's life easier. I'm enough. I always was. And honestly, I'm grateful for what broke. Because it's what finally set me free. Thanks for listening, and if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about survival, healing, and finding your voice after trauma. Sometimes the breaking point is actually the beginning. Stay strong.